Is about 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and hopefully you guys can all join me here on this platform. I usually do Instagram lives, but now with my YouTube family, I want to be able to provide the same, question and answer, ask me anything kind of forum, and have you guys ask me any questions that you may have. So I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm literally just on my iPad with without a ring light, just with natural lighting, and it's probably not the best editing or quality, but the importance is just to get the content out there for you guys. It's not about fancy editing or graphics or whatever. This is just hardcore me as your dermatologist, or a dermatologist who you can ask honest questions and get honest answers from. That's why I'm here, and that's why I do this for you guys. So hopefully you guys are able to join me. If this works out well, I can post it. So those of you who weren't able to join us today because you're in different time zones or it just didn't work out, that's fine. I'll see if you guys want me to post it. I'll post it so you guys can go back to it and watch it later. I'll try to talk slower because I know that some people have to turn me down to 0.5 to get down everything that I'm saying, because I do talk so fast sometimes. So I'll try to slow that down. My brain just goes overdrive and goes too fast sometimes, and I get too excited talking about skincare. So I'll try to turn it down a little bit, and then also I'll try to do this every Sunday. Sunday works out great because I have two little kids, and they keep me really busy. And then I'm in the office during the week seeing patients and doing treatment, so it gets a little busy. But if there's another night or day or time that works for you, just let me know, and I'm super receptive to that. We can do this a different time, but hopefully I can do this once a week for you guys. And then also once a week, I'll try to post some educational video in dermatology. So it could be in aesthetics, skincare, dermatology, or just medicine. Any medical questions, as a physician, I can answer a lot of questions about supplements, diet, healthy lifestyle, anything you guys want to hear. So I'm here for you. So let me just see if I can look at these questions. Because they kind of disappear as I go. Okay, so keep, bear with me because I'm just still trying to figure it out too. Okay, let me see. Does it matter if you wash your face with hot or cold water? So that's a great question. Usually, usually warm tepid water is recommended. If it's too warm, it can be irritating to the skin and cause a little vasodilation, or for the blood vessels to kind of open up and make your skin a little bit more red and more receptive and sensitive to products that you're using in your cleanser or your multi-step cleansing system. But for the most part, cooler or tepid water is more soothing for the skin. It doesn't have to be cold, but if you could use tepid water, that's always best. Now, the weird thing is I'm trying to figure out these questions because they go away after a minute. Okay, can you describe how Demodex causes hair loss? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Demodex is actually a mite that lives on the skin. I know it sounds horrific and gross, but it's a natural kind of habitant of our skin. We have a lot of bacteria, yeast, and mites that sometimes live on our skin. They live in the highly sebaceous areas of the skin, so areas where there's a lot of sebum and oil production, like around the eyebrows, around the nasal alar crease. In areas where there's a high density of sebaceous glands, because they feed off the sebum, which is so gross. But many times people don't even know that they're there. And when we do a skin biopsy for one reason or another, say we're trying to rule out an atypical mole, or somebody just needs a skin biopsy, when you look under the microscope, you can see all these little mites at the top of the skin. Now, we usually don't tell patients that, because if we're oh, you have Demodex, mites all over your skin, they would freak out. So we usually just don't really mention it. But Demodex has been associated with, it could be associated with some alopecias, including transient hair loss. It's associated with rosacea, so people will blog and vlog, oh my gosh, my dermatologist said I have mites on my skin. It sounds worse than it is, but it could be an inciting factor to increase inflammation and rosacea, and the mite is just called a Demodex, and a lot of people have it. You'd be surprised if you did a random skin biopsy, you might have it on your skin. I know it sounds disgusting. Hopefully you don't, but if it did, it's not the end of the world, but it can cause a little bit of alopecia from irritation from the mite, kind of living off the sebum in the hair shaft or the scalp, where there's a high density of hair follicles and sebaceous glands. And so the mite feeds off the sebum, and then your inflammatory response comes in. Your immune cells come and recognizes it as an irritating or a foreign organism on the skin, and increases blood flow and irritation and and then you get scaly and dry and itchy. So if you have that problem, it's always good to use like either like a ketoconazole or like an anti-dandruff shampoo. I know these are gross, but like Selsun Blue or like Head and Shoulders, and just wash with that like once or twice a week, and it actually can help decrease the incidence of that Demodex mite and the sequela of alopecia or hair loss in the scalp. So that was a gross like medical term question, but hopefully I answered that for you without scaring you guys too much. Okay. Can you talk about Retin A? Yeah, there's so many things that we can say about Retin A. I think the main thing that I want to get across, like as a dermatologist to you guys, is that there's many different vitamin A derivatives out there. There's, vitamin A can come in the form of a prescription or non-prescription form. And I see all these questions popping up, you guys. If I don't get to everyone, I just want to be able to have quality, not quantity. And if I don't get to your questions, I'll do this every week, and you can even post in the comments and I'll respond to you there, because I see that there's a lot more questions coming up that I'm probably going to be able to get to. But hopefully if I answer somebody's question, it'll be a question that somebody else had too. But going back to Retin A, so you have like the research, randomized controlled trials data supporting the prescription strength Retin A's like Tretinoin, Tazorac, Adapalene. And the reason why is because these are very helpful for anti-aging, but they're also used in dermatology for other things, for psoriasis, for a lot of genodermatoses and dermatologic conditions. So we've done research and studies knowing that overwhelmingly we know that like a tretinoin has benefits in dermatology, but it also has potent anti-aging effects, hydrating the skin, increasing cellular renewal, increasing collagen and elastin synthesis, which are in the dermis, the dermal matrix proteins, which give skin that nice, smooth, tight texture. And a loss of that is what causes crepey, kind of laxed skin. So we know that they work well. The problem is that, like, for example, tretinoin, which has the most anti-aging benefit, is also very irritating to people when they start it. And it has to be started in a very slow and very methodical manner. People that use it too much, too fast, get turned off and they're like, I hate it, I'm sensitive to it, it breaks down my barrier, I don't like it. But that's not the way to go about it. It's kind of like analogous to going to the gym and doing a really hard workout and be like, okay, I got sore, I don't want to work out anymore, I'm not going to lift weights anymore, I'd rather like not be fit. So it's like you have to just ease your way into it. Go to the gym, do a little workout, kind of build your tolerance. When you're sore, go home, recover, drink your protein, go back to the gym, and then pretty soon you're going to be going to the gym, you're going to be fit, your muscles are going to be toned, and you're not going to be sore anymore. So it's kind of like the same thing. Skin is just an organ system, just like our musculoskeletal system. It needs to build a tolerance, and you can't shock the system with giving it something that it's not used to handling. And tretinoin gets the skin cells behaving and functioning optimally. Now, if you douse it with too much, too fast, or you use the inappropriate dosage or percentage or vehicle, it can make your skin sensitive. Can it break down the barrier? I wouldn't say it breaks down the barrier. Some may, disagree and say it breaks down the barrier. But the most important thing is it can if it's used inappropriately. So if people are going to start like a Retin A, which is tretinoin, you could do a 0.025%, a 0.05%, a 0.1%. You could do a gel, you could do a microemulsion, you can do a cream, and different vehicles have different potencies. Whether you put it on a clean, dry face or wet face can increase the potency. What else you're mixing it can increase the potency. The percentage can increase the potency. So there's so many variables out there that I think the problem is that it's a very powerful active ingredient, but it's highly used incorrectly and inconsistently. And then, people see their friends or their loved ones or their significant others or influencers saying, oh, I use a tretinoin every night, no problem. They're like, well, I want to use it, and they do it, and they're not building a tolerance to it. They're not getting introduced to it in the right methodical manner, and then they get turned off with it and they say, I can't use it, it makes me sensitive, it breaks down my barrier. So just find what's right for you, and it doesn't have to be a prescription strength Retin A or tretinoin. You can use a retinaldehyde, you can use any other vitamin A derivatives that are not prescription strength, like retinol. And so these also get converted to retinoic acid in the skin. Now, another thing that comes up a lot is retinaldehyde versus retinol. So I'm going to give it to you tried and true. As a board certified dermatologist, I just recertified my board exams last week, and they actually test us on this. And I think because there's a propagation of misinformation in the non-medical community about, retinol, retinaldehyde, retinoic acid. The truth is there's enzymes in the skin that convert all these active ingredients back and forth to one another. Retinaldehyde doesn't get in the skin and go straight to retinoic acid to the nucleus to have a downstream effects of a Retin A. It also gets converted to retinol. So retinol, retinaldehyde are going back and forth to each other, and then they end up becoming also retinoic acid, which gets into the nucleus of the cell, and it increases gene transcription of a lot of anti-aging pathways. to increase cellular renewal, to increase collagen, to increase elastin, to increase hydration, to increase natural moisturization factors for the skin. Amazing, beautiful, awesome things that it does for anti-aging. So if someone says retinaldehyde is better than a retinol, or retinol is better than retinaldehyde, it really doesn't matter. It gets converted both ways in the skin, and you just have to find what's right for you. I always say don't get hung up on, one active ingredient because you hear one thing about one and have this big battle, which one's better than the other. It's like going to the gym and saying, okay, machines are so much better than free weights, you guys. No, free weights are way better than machines. They're both great. You just have to find what works best for you. Even if you use both and mix it up and switch it up, that's even better. So I'm just here to enhance your journey towards your skincare routine that works best for you, which you can tolerate, and don't get hung up on marketing saying one thing or another, because chances are they're probably trying to push the product that they have in their active ingredients. And I say this, I'm a formulator. I just formulated and engineered my own skin line. I chose to use a retinol. I microencapsulated it and have a vehicle delivery system that I feel, is the best and most innovative techniques. It's actually the first of its kind. And I went to my scientific meetings and our academic meetings and spoke to scientists and formulators and engineered this on my own. And I feel like it's next level. But still, that said, if someone wants to use a retinaldehyde because a retinol doesn't work for them, 1,000% go with that one. Go with what works for you. And I really do feel that if you use a skincare product that works for you and you're using it for maybe 1 or 2 weeks and you're like, damn, my skin looks good, or oh my gosh, my skin's never looked so good, that's your answer. It doesn't matter what any doctor or influencer or vlogger or friend or sister or loved one says about what they're using. Use what's right for you, because your skin will tell you. And everybody's skin is different. Your genetic makeup's different. The thickness of the epidermis may be different. The thickness of the dermis may be different. The signal transduction pathways may be different. So everybody's skin's a little bit different. So what works for one person may not work for another one. So I always say, as far as Retin A, find what works right for you. If it's a tretinoin, if it's a retinol, if it's a retinaldehyde, if it's a Tazorac, which is really strong, if it's an adapalene, and it's okay. And also just mix it up. The other question that comes up a lot with Retin A is, does it thin the skin? And that's actually a dermatologic myth. Does it break down the barrier? It can if you're using it incorrectly, but you would know. I mean, you would be red, dry, peely, irritated, and your barrier would be broken down. You'd probably have to slug for a couple of nights to get your skin back on track, but that shouldn't break down the barrier when you're using it correctly. Again, it's a lot like working out. If you go to the gym and you're doing hip thrusts with 300 pounds when you haven't, worked your glutes in 2 years, you're going to hate it, and it's not going to be good for you, and it's going to hurt your barrier. It's going to make you sore. It's going to make you not feel good, and you'll have a hard time recovering from that. But if you go and you titrate up, and you go to the gym and you titrate up your weights, and just like you titrate up your Retin A or your vitamin A derivative, you'll have great benefits, and you won't be afraid of it, and you won't think that you're sensitive to it anymore. So I hope that helps. I went on a long tirade on that, but I think that hopefully I covered a lot of bases with that too. Okay, let me see if my questions are coming up. Okay, so let me see. Sorry, let me scroll down. Sorry that I probably missed a lot of questions because I've been going on and on about Retin A, but I think that that's a really important point to get across. Hi, doctor. I love your skincare line. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so glad that you like it. I'm so excited. We just launched 3 weeks ago. I don't want to take this time to talk about my skincare line, although I could talk about it all day. I want this to be for you and answering questions, but thank you so much for that feedback. I don't know why these go away. Okay, let me see. My husband has 2 large sunspots on the side of his face, not too far from his eye. What laser treatment could he use, and would adapalene be another option or better? So if there's sunspots, which we call solar lentigines in dermatology, sunspots could just be excess melanin or pigmentation that gets in the skin from, sun damage or UV exposure over time. Always, first and foremost, as a skin cancer surgeon, which I am also, I just always want to make sure that it's not something that could be a potential skin cancer. So with sunspots, of course, we want to rule out anything that could be potentially cancerous or precancerous. So sometimes before I even laser something, I will do a skin biopsy to make sure that it looks fine under the microscope, because you would never want to laser something that could be potentially malignant. That said, usually clinically, sunspots look benign. They have, even smooth borders. The hyperpigmentation is regular. It's not dark in one focal area or not. And in that case, I would use a pico laser. There's lots of lasers that target melanin. I happen to have a pico laser, which is a 755 nanometer wavelength. I also have a 1064 and a 532. So there's different pigment lasers. And so I have a pico. I think think that's one of the best. I would use a pico laser to erase the sunspot. Usually just one treatment's needed. There's a little bit of downtime. You'll get a little bit scaly and crusty in the area that was spot treated. Then that falls off and you have beautiful, healthy skin underneath. And then we try to protect your investment by making sure you use sunscreen so that you don't make more after that. But there's YAG, there's, the 532 nanometer wavelength lasers. There's lots of different lasers that can target brown spots. There's also Fraxel and Clear and Brilliant, which are a little bit more like resurfacing lasers, but they also have a 1927 nanometer handpiece that will kind of address the hyperpigmentation too. Sorry, my iPad's falling. So I think that would be my recommendation, but there's lots of different lasers for it, but we can laser it to get rid of it. It's an easy thing to do when you have the right lasers and know your settings. But it's also important to rule out any potential skin cancer. So hopefully that makes sense. Can we just get to these? Sorry guys, where did they go? Okay. Sorry if I'm missing any of your questions. I can't keep up with all these. Let me see here. How can we purchase the Skin Better Oxygen Cleanser? I'm excited to try it, and it's hard to find it online. So you can get it. Skin Better Science is very strict with their online purchasing. So they have microsites and they have their own website. I would just go to the Skin Better Science website and get it from there. The Oxygen Cleanser, for those of you who don't know, is by Skin Better Science. It has oxygen in it, which helps detoxify and purify the skin. It's also great for eliminating the P. acnes bacteria, which can contribute to masceny and acne. It also has a slow release of AHAs in it, which is great because it helps with all the things, anti-aging, melasma, acne, hyperpigmentation, all that. But it is hard to get online, and the reason why Skin Better does that is because that's true medical grade. You can't just buy it like on an online derm store, and they really highly regulate their products because they don't want any counterfeit. They don't want it getting into the wrong hands, and they don't want expired product being out there and being sold online. So I really respect them as a company because they're very forward thinking in their technology, and also because they maintain the integrity across the board, and they only have products available from their website or other physicians' microsites. So that's how they kind of maintain the integrity of their products. But I would just go to their website if you guys haven't already. They're a great company. Oh, bless you. Okay. Can I still have laser done? If you're taking 20 milligrams of Accutane, now, of course, I'm not your personal physician, and, I can't really give medical advice over social media, but, so usually for a low-dose Accutane, which is the way most providers prescribe Accutane these days, if it's just for, acne maintenance or even for anti-aging, 20 milligrams of Accutane every week or every other week or even just once a month, you can still have laser done. A lot of doctors will say, no lasers, no peels, no dermatologic treatments while you're on Accutane, but that's a little old school information. For those of us who are more updated with our information, you absolutely can do a laser treatment on Accutane. You have to be pretty well versed with lasers and not afraid of them, know what settings to use, what appropriate lasers are useful to do these treatments, but you can absolutely do it while you're on a very low dose Accutane, which is kind of the new school way of doing Accutane. Back in the day, we used to do 80 milligrams of Accutane every day, which was a lot, and in that case, I wouldn't do a laser treatment, but nobody really prescribes Accutane like that anymore. Okay, does zinc oxide block blue light like Isden untinted does zinc oxide block blue light like Isden untinted sunscreen? So zinc oxide and titanium dioxide as physical blockers can to a certain extent block HEV visible light, but it's more the iron oxides in a sunscreen that help block HEV light, infrared light, blue light, all the light that's emitted from our devices that can cause premature aging and collagen breakdown. It's more the iron oxides in the skincare products. So that's why I really like Color Science. I love Skin Better Science's sunscreen line. I love Elta MD. I love there's one called Tizo 3 that you can get on Amazon that's actually really good, and I love the texture of it. It's almost like a matte mousse finish. But all those, Color Science is probably the most next level company in just sunscreen and sunscreen skincare. I really love that company because they're very forward thinking. I go to the meetings, at our academic meetings, where we talk to the formulators and the scientists behind it, and they're just super innovative, as far as combining their sunscreen products with other active ingredients, because sometimes sunscreens can break down the active ingredients in other, in your products. So you want to ensure to maintain the integrity of your skincare products that you're spending your money on, and that should be working on your skin and working for you as the day goes on, and not having your sunscreen break it down. So I love Color Science, and they have iron oxides in their sunscreen products, and those are what protect you from the HUV, infrared, and blue light from our devices. Because if you're sitting, in your bedroom at night and you're seeing the blue reflection on your face from your phone or your iPad or your laptop, you're getting collagen breakdown. It's increasing matrix metalloproteinases enzymes, which break down the skin, and especially with younger generations who are exposed at a very early age to blue light, it can accelerate aging, which is like terrifying. So not to scare you guys, but yeah, make sure that you have iron oxides in your sunscreen, and not all sunscreens are created equal, because you want to have iron oxides in your sunscreen to protect you against environmental pollutants and blue light too. All right, let's see what's going on here. Okay, which laser would be best for under the eyes? So I just did a reel on Instagram on under eye rejuvenation today. And so it depends on what you're looking for under eye. So for crepey or wrinkly skin under the eyes, I feel that Fraxel or Halo or an ablative or non-ablative resurfacing laser is always best. There's energy-based devices also like Thermage that give a deeper collagen stimulation to tighten that skin. But you have to remember that under eye wrinkles and under eye crepiness and under eye kind of skin laxity happens from a loss of collagen and elastin that we lose over time. It starts in our 20s, and we lose 10% of it each decade. So that's why the skin gets wrinkly and crepey, and it even starts in our 20s and continues to get worse as we age. So you want to do the opposite. You want to stimulate collagen to counterbalance the loss of collagen, and that's what keeps the under eyelid skin smooth and tight. And I've been doing Fraxel under my eyes since my 20s, and it's just one of the best things that I think I've done, because I never wanted to have surgery or never wanted to have any dramatic treatments on my under eye area, because that's a very preventable area, that if you baby and you do laser resurfacing, you can keep that area nice and smooth and tight. So I would say any resurfacing laser like a Fraxel or even like a Clear and Brilliant to stimulate collagen and elastin to tighten that skin, and do it like proactively to prevent it from happening or slow it down. Or if it's if you're in your 40s or 50s and you haven't really been paying much attention to that area and you have some fine lines and wrinkles there, you can kind of reverse it, but it may take a couple more treatments, and then you have to maintain from there on. So I do that every day. Dr. Kennedy is the dermatologist in my office who does mine. I love it. She's a whiz at it. I make her do it to my under eye area like every couple months, just to keep that skin fresh with collagen and packed full of collagen and elastin to keep that under eye area tight. So hopefully you can see too, like I have no filter. I'm like live streaming on my iPad and have, I don't even have a ring light right now. So you can see like the under eye area. I don't really have too many fine lines or wrinkles under there, but I probably would have a ton if I hadn't been doing Fraxel or laser resurfacing my whole life. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, can hydroquinone be used on the eyelids? Is it light sensitive? Thank you. So the hydroquinone formulations nowadays are pretty stable in ultraviolet light or in light or during the day. We used to say you can only use hydroquinone at night, but that's not what we say anymore, because they're engineered now to be smarter with innovative technology to be able to withstand UV light, and it doesn't get broken down. You can use it on your eyelids, but just be really, really careful. The eyelid skin is so thin, it could be just a few micromillimeters thick, and the globe of the eye is right underneath that area. So the skin there is very thin. It can absorb active ingredients a lot more powerfully than it can on other areas of the skin. So it depends on where on the eyelid. If it's right over the globe of the eye, like your upper eyelid, I would avoid that. I would go with other measures for correcting hyperpigmentation. But I think that using hydroquinone like up around your eye, like right here or close to the eyelid margin right here, I think it's fine. But just careful with the upper eyelid, because that skin is so thin that if there's increased absorption, it can actually get in contact with the actual globe of the eye or the cornea. So you never want to you want to be careful with that and not have it get into the eye too much. Okay, so let's see what else you guys are asking about. Okay, hi, I'm 52 and I've had no procedures or Botox. What would be the best at-home treatment or device to use? Using your products too. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that you're using my products. Hopefully that you've gotten, you're getting a good response just from using the products alone. But I would say, as far as an at-home device, I just think that, investing in good skincare, which seems like you're doing, there's a lot of like at-home like LED devices and things like that. It's hard to say whether, those really make that big of a difference or not. It can't hurt you. So I say maybe, pick one or two. The infrared lights, I think, have the most data supporting them, but it just, it could be a lot of time and money for maybe not that much of a benefit. But if you wanted to do something at home, I think like an infrared light would be helpful. I'm not a big fan of the microcurrent devices because those are like only temporary, and the gels or the products that you need to make them work are very expensive, and it adds up. But I've had a lot of patients, I see hundreds of patients each week, so I'm getting feedback from real life people who are using a lot of these products that they buy online, whether it's skincare or product, at home devices. And a lot of people are upset and want their money back, or they want to take back their microcurrent devices. So I see a lot of unhappy people with that one, so it's hard for me to recommend that one. Also, in our dermatology literature, there's no real data for the microcurrent devices, but the infrared, I think that there's some data supporting its benefit, so that might be an at-home treatment that you'd want to do. However, I feel like it's a lot of money and a lot of time, and if you would spend that in a medical grade situation where you could actually get a lot of bang for your buck, I think that would probably be better. But just investing in good skincare at home, investing in a good sunscreen to photo protect your skin can go a long way. Other things, let me see, at home that you could do, make sure that you optimize your supplements, that you're taking your collagen peptides, and just living a healthy lifestyle. I think that's the best thing that you can do for your skin and protect it from future damage with a good sunscreen. So hopefully that helps. All right, let's see. What is your opinion on HelioCare mineral sunscreen for melasma? So I actually didn't know that HelioCare made a mineral sunscreen. HelioCare, I know as a supplement, contains polypodium leukotomas, which is almost like an internal sunscreen. It's derived from plants, and it's an enzyme, like a DNA repair enzyme, and it's like an internal protection sunscreen. Plants express this to protect their own genes and DNA from sun damage and photo damage. And so we've harvested it as an active ingredient in a supplement. HelioCare is a company, I think, the first to do it. They have an amazing supplement line. I didn't know that they made sunscreen, so I'd have to look into that and get back to you. But any mineral-based sunscreen is great. You want a zinc oxide or a titanium dioxide that's 7% or higher. And HelioCare is a great company, so I without a doubt know that they probably engineer a great sunscreen. But always just make sure that it's mineral based. Try to avoid the chemical sunscreens, and I'm sure that their sunscreen probably has some polypodium leukotomas in it too, because that was kind of their claim to fame, and they were probably one of the earliest adopters of that amazing active ingredient. So my skincare line too, I put the polypodium leukotomas active ingredient in almost everything, because it's an internal protection from your skin to protect against the harmful effects of UV light and collagen breakdown. So, and that's a newer kid on the market. That's a newer kid on the block as far as an active ingredient that I wanted to incorporate in my skincare line. Okay, if an ablative laser takes off the top of the skin, is it still creating good collagen? So yes, it is. So the top layer of the skin is the stratum corneum. So the epidermis is made up of multiple layers, and the stratum corneum is just made up of dead keratinocytes. So basically they're like skeleton cells, so they don't have a nucleus, they're not viable, and that's what your barrier is. So sorry, my nose is running. Ablative lasers actually take the stratum corneum off the skin, and it stimulates cellular renewal. It signal transduction cascades down to the baby stem cells to repopulate themselves and repopulate the epidermis. You have to think of the epidermis, which is the top layer of the skin. It's like the crust on a pie. Then you have your dermis, and then you have your subcuticular fat and tissue below. But the epidermis is a multiple layer kind of barrier to keeping the outside world from invading the body. So your skin, the integument system, is basically made up of several layers, and the top layer is your stratum corneum. So this could be really thick, it could be really thin, it could be in the middle, and what happens is it's kind of like as your baby stem cells at the bottom mature, and they go through different stages, and they end up on the top layer. That's where all the dead skin cells are. So this is gross, but you can think of it like as an army. These are all the baby troops, and all the people who end up dying, they just kind of put on the front layer on the front line to take all the bullets, or to take all the hits from the environment, or the UV light, or the environmental pollutants, or the toxins, and those just desquamate and kind of flake off over time, and it stimulates the baby stem cells to repopulate themselves and refresh the skin. So that's what cellular renewal is. So basically your stratum corneum is just made up of dead keratinocytes. They don't have a nucleus, they're filled with keratin debris, and it's that dead stratum corneum layer on top. Now you need a certain amount of that to protect your skin, and that is what your barrier is. However, if it gets too thick, if you ever look at like really elderly patients, I remember being on the hospital wards when I was in internal medicine, and I look at the ICU, like, patients like who are over 100 years old, and just, in the ICU, and I remember looking at their skin, and it would always be like dull and gray and just like not look viable and healthy and fresh. And it was so interesting to me why their skin looked like that. That's because their stratum corneum layer is so thick, it's not getting exfoliated and desquamated off. And so you want that to be freshened, and you want it to decrease in thickness, but you don't want it too thinned out because then that's breaking down your barrier. So a CO2 or an erbium ablative laser takes off the top layer of the skin, but that's like peeling off the dead skin that you don't need anyway, and it cascades down to the baby stem cells to repopulate themselves, to make collagen, to make fibroblast cells, make collagen, make elastin, and resurface the skin. So an erbium or fully ablative laser is amazing with respect to the outcomes. I don't have one in my office. I used it all throughout fellowship, and I used it even post fellowship when I worked for my mentor in her office. It was a laser center with like hundreds of lasers, and we had the fully ablative lasers in there, but the downtime is hard to get through. My patients won't be able to handle that downtime or that pain. You know, you need to have a lot of pain control and a lot of analgesics. And I feel that a non-ablative laser can get you the same results. It just may take 2 or 3 treatments to get there, but it's a pleasant experience. The downtime's not bad. You don't have to do vinegar soaks. You don't look like scary. You know, if you Google Fraxel laser or, you know, CO2 or ablative lasers, you'll see these horrific, like bloody, pinpoint bleeding, like scary pictures. My patients wouldn't be able to tolerate that. I wouldn't either as a patient. I do to my patients what I'd want for myself. And you do the non-ablative lasers where you look, they don't take off the top layer of the skin. They basically just poke thousands of tiny little holes in the skin to stimulate your skin cells to repopulate and fill in those holes with newer skin and with collagen synthesis and all the benefits that you get from a fully ablative laser that takes off the top layer of the skin, but without that downtime and that discomfort. You may just have to have 2 or 3 treatments spaced 1 month apart to get the same outcome, though. So it's just kind of like a cost benefit. I've thought about getting a fully ablative laser, but honestly, my results are so great with a non-ablative, and my patients are so happy with it that I don't really feel the need to. But it's not to say it's not a good laser. It's just doesn't fit my practice. But yes, that's how the lasers work, and you don't have to worry about it thinning your skin too much because the settings and the elegance of the mechanics and physics of it are to such a degree that you can control how deep you go. And if a person, I'm sure whoever has this device in their office is well versed in lasers, probably board certified in either plastic surgery or dermatology, so you know exactly how to control that depth, and it's a very methodical, very calculated mechanism as how you do the treatment. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that wasn't too technical. Okay, what's the difference between Color Science Flex and Face Shield? Which one is better for skin that easily clogs? So the Color Science line of skincare and sunscreen that we were just talking about, they have Flex and Face Shield. So I like the Face Shield just because it's one color, and the technology in it to blend with every skin tone is really next level. So basically you can put it on the dorsum of anybody's hand and rub it in, and it basically blends into your natural skin tone. Flex comes in different shades. So I think there's like light, medium, and dark, and a lot of my patients will mix the two. Like they'll mix medium and dark, or they'll mix light and medium, and it gets kind of complicated with having to buy 2 bottles instead of 1 and having to blend it. So I just recommend just the Face Shield because I feel like it's simple. It goes with every skin type 1 through 6, dark skin tones, lighter skin tones. It looks good on everyone. And the Flex is a little bit more stressful because you have to like get the color blend that works for you, and then you end up having to buy 2 half the time. But Face Shield Flex works really well too. They're basically the same technology in the Face Shield, which we talked about before, has the mineral-based sunscreen that blocks UVA1, UVA2, UVB. Remember, UVA is what causes photoaging. UVB is what causes skin cancer. You need both, protection from both. And then you need the iron oxides in it to protect your skin from blue light and infrared light emitted from our devices that can break down collagen and cause premature aging. So hopefully that makes sense, but there's really no difference, and it's really great for acne prone skin. It's non-comedogenic. It's not going to clog your pores. So either one, the Flex or the regular Face Shield, like I think they call it the Classic Face Shield, would work for you. I would just go with the Classic because it's just easier and it's less, less blending of colors and things like that. So hopefully that made sense. Let me just get to, I'm so sorry that I'm not getting to all of your guys' questions. There's so many here, but I'll do this I think I'm gonna have to do this every Sunday for you guys so that I can just get to everyone. Oh, don't forget to hit the like button. Oh, was that to me or for other people? Yeah, you guys subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you get notifications. I'll post a YouTube video every week on things that you guys want to hear about. So I'm very receptive to people, in their comments will say, hey, can you do a video on melasma? Somebody asked me to do one on KP or keratosis pilaris. I posted that the other week. And I do Instagram lives also, but because you guys are my newer family on YouTube, actually no, I've been on YouTube for a while. I just took a little break while I was engineering my skincare line. fine. But I want to be able to do lives for you too. And I actually didn't know that you could do lives on YouTube until recently. So I'm like, shoot, I need to start doing that. So if I don't get to all your questions, I'll do this every week so I can get to you guys, to everyone's questions. Okay, somebody else asked, how to deal with lip pigmentation apart from using sunscreen. My lips get so dark due to sun exposure. I wasn't born like that. Really appreciate your time. Oh, thank you so much. I'd love doing this for you guys. So lip pigmentation can happen, especially like at the vermilion border where your red lip meets the skin part, of your lip. And the vermilion borders where a lot of melanocytes, the pigment producing cells in our skin, live. And they can get hyperactive and can release a lot of melanin, especially if you're on like birth control pills, if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, if you're undergoing IVF, if you're undergoing hormone replacement therapy, or even not. So the pigmentation around the lips can be tricky. I typically use a clear and brilliant or Fraxel laser to lighten that pigmentation, and then I'll use either a hydroquinone or a non-hydroquinone skin brightener in combination with the laser. That knocks it out of the park. I always say it's like 1 + 1 = 3, because the two synergistically together will break down that melanin and help melasma better than each individual treatment in and of itself. And I'm always sensitive to people who don't want to be on a hydroquinone. I totally get that. I struggle with melasma myself, and I kind of taper myself on and off a hydroquinone, but the non-hydroquinone skin brighteners work actually really well as well. So I would say combine a laser with a brightener. Dr. Kennedy, Lena Kennedy in my office just posted, I think, a melasma treatment that she did on a woman's lip, and she like cleared it. So it's really important to combine lasers that don't hyperpigment, that will lift up the pigmentation, and combine it with the brightener, because the point of the laser is to remove the pigment that's already existing, and the non-hydroquinone or hydroquinone skin brightener topical creams that you use will prevent your melanocytes from producing more. So it's a two-part process. You have to get rid of the pigment that's already there, but you have to prevent more pigment from happening. So I hope that makes sense. So that would be my recommendation. Okay, let me see. Somebody asked, hi, do laser treatments expose one to radiation since the energy warms up the skin? Thank you for all the information that you provide. You're most welcome. And no, it doesn't. So radiation is a different nanometer on the electromagnetic spectrum. So if you guys remember the whole electromagnetic spectrum, you have like infrared, light, you have visible light, which where lasers are, you have radiation, you have different, it's all in a huge spectrum. And so you have sound waves, you have ultrasound, you have microwave waves, it's all in this whole electromagnetic spectrum. And the visible light is like this much of the electromagnetic spectrum, and that's where the visible light is, and we call it Roy G. Biv, ROYGBV. So R is red, O is orange, and Y is yellow, so Roy G. Biv. So, and that's where the photons of the laser are in. So it's totally in a different location of the other electromagnetic wavelengths. So don't worry about radiation at all. Lasers are healthy for the skin. They're color-emitted light, they're photons, and they're engineered in a very elegant and pristine manner that are like next level. So I really do feel like lasers are the way of the future, and as people get more comfortable with them, more people will be using them, because honestly, and I look at skin under the microscope as a Mohs surgeon. I've been looking at skin biopsies and skin under the microscope for decades. And I remember seeing like patients under the microscope. I'm like, why does this 60-year-old woman have like 30-year-old skin under the scope? And clinically, she also correlated with that and would look a lot younger than she was. And it was usually because they were doing lasers and, energy-based devices. So I know what works from just being a product of my training and like looking at skin under the microscope, and then also doing a laser fellowship and playing with these lasers and see which outcomes are better than others. That's why, when you talk about one laser versus another, or one energy-based device versus another, or microneedling, I've had access to all these lasers and I've been using them for decades, and so I know which ones have the best outcomes and the happiest patients, and I know that which ones have the long-term outcomes too. You don't want to do treatments that's going to make you look swollen and make your acne scars or wrinkles look better for 1 to 2 weeks while you're swollen and then have it go away. You want the long-term results that work. And so that's how I knew when I opened my own private practice just 2 years ago which lasers to have, which energy-based devices to have in my office. They're like the best of the best with regards to outcomes and duration of outcomes, and that's how I hand selected them. But that's not to say that other devices or lasers don't work. It's just these happen to be my favorite, and if they're not in my office, they're not really my favorite. And also, dermatology and laser medicine is a very rapidly changing field, and that's why social media is so important. That's why I love to educate you guys. And I'm always on the forefront of technology and attending lectures. I'm actually at the podium at a lot of our dermatologic meetings, teaching other doctors and keeping everybody updated, because it's such a rapidly advancing field, which is so exciting, and just I am so passionate about it that I want to keep you guys on the forefront of it. So there may be lasers coming down the pipeline in our near future, and other devices. Actually, there's one coming down that's going to be probably like within the next year or two, that's like super fascinated, and it was engineered by one of the geniuses who has contributed the most to the field of dermatology and laser medicine, and it's coming down the pipeline and probably pretty soon. And so it's important to change with the times, and I think like a lot of providers or doctors sometimes get stuck in a rut, or they don't advance and keep up with the latest trends in technology and innovation in skincare and aesthetics. And I always do, and I'll be the kind of liaison between the medical community and things coming straight from the research labs and the laser labs to the general public. So hopefully I can be that, kind of liaison for you guys. So that's my whole point of doing this. Okay, so let me see what else. Okay, let me see what other questions you guys are having. So sorry that I'm not getting to all of these. Okay, I think I got to some of these. Let me see. Oh, can you use Even Tone, NMF Hydrator, and Retinoid at the same time at night? Yes, you absolutely can. So Even Tone is a non-hydroquinone skin brightener by Skin Better Science, and I think you're asking about the NMF Hydrator and the Retinoid. Okay, so the NMF Hydrator and Retinoid can be used at the same time. They actually are engineered to work pretty well together. I would probably put the Even Tone on first. If you have the vitamin C, that would go on first, and then the Even Tone, and then your Retinoid and NMF Hydrator. But hopefully that answers your question. I would put the Even Tone on first. Even Tone is a non-hydroquinone skin brightener that has other brightening agents in it. So it's by Skin Better Science. I use it a lot. You can be used morning and night, and it's non-irritating. And I think it's also it's engineered with other anti-aging active ingredients in it too. So Even Tone's by Skin Better Science, and it's a great one. I would put it on first before your hydrator and your retinol or your retinoid. So hopefully that helps. Okay, hi Stephanie, what is your opinion on healing? Oh, we already answered that one. Okay, let me see. Thank you. Hi you guys. It's so good to see everyone. Let me see. Okay, what hand cream do you recommend to severely dry, cracked hands? I have to wash my hands constantly at work and nothing is truly helping. Honestly, one of my favorite ones is like the Neutrogena hand, like the Norwegian formula. I've used that one my whole life, and actually my hands get so thrashed because as a Mohs surgeon, we'd have to scrub and use, harsh, really surgical soaps multiple times a day. I mean, each patient that we would treat, we'd have to do several layers between the initial incision and like the closure or the repair. Each procedure I'd see 10 patients a day, and each of the 10 patients would have like 5 little surgeries in and of itself. So you can imagine how much hand scrubbing and glove wearing that I had to do. And my hands, I remember at night I would come home and I'd make a fist and they'd be cracked and like bleeding, and my attending would say, you're getting surgeon's hands, you're growing into your specialty. And I'm like, oh great, and I'm gonna have like messed up hands. But they'd be cracked and bleeding, and I would use that Neutrogena hand cream. It's the Norwegian formula, and just put that on at bedtime, because you're hopefully going to have about 6 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep, where that can help kind of penetrate the skin, reinforce the barrier, and kind of heal any fissures or cracking that you have of your hands. So it's also important if you have just like slugging for your hands, using either Aquaphor or Vaseline. And if you really want to like hit it home, this is what we used to do in our pediatric dermatology clinic with kids with atopic dermatitis, where they'd get really bad excoriations and cracked, fissured skin. You put on Aquaphor or some emollient or Vaseline, you wrap it with saran wrap, and then put a sock over it, and then you sleep with your hands in that, and that like just drives that penetration into the skin to reinforce the barrier and to strengthen the skin. So that would be my recommendation. If you really want to be like hardcore about it, I would say Aquaphor, Vaseline, either a Ziploc bag, saran wrap, and then put a sock over it. And like the heat from your body temperature will help activate it. And it's basically called under occlusion. And that's how you make, you heal up your hands fast. Sleep with that on a couple nights, and your hands should be pretty much back to normal if you can do that. It's a little bit uncomfortable, and it's not the most fun thing, especially when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're uncomfortable with these like mittens on your hands, but it really helps really well. So hopefully that helps. Hi, Dr. Stephanie. Do you have to rotate the brands? Do I have to rotate the brands when I use a retinol? Since I normally, we do have to rotate skincare products. So I always think it's great to rotate your skincare products If you have a retinol that you're using that you really like, you can stick with it. But I always say like every, 2 to 3 months, you should switch it up with respect to the type of retinol you're using, just to keep your skin guessing. You're kind of shocking the system. Again, just like working out, when you go to the gym and you do the same routine over and over again, your body may like get used to it. You may plateau, and then you switch it up and say you do spin or weightlifting, or you do, CrossFit, or you do something for another month, and you get results really fast. Your organ systems benefit when they're kind of like stimulated and shocked in a different way. So I always say, rotate your different skincare products every like 2 to 3 months. You don't have to, but even if it's like a week on or week off with another product, sometimes it will help kind of stimulate your body to respond a little bit better. So hopefully that helps. Do any over-the-counter treatments work for slowing telogen effluvium? I've been tested and there's no apparent medical reason, but I've been losing a lot of hair for the last year. So telogen effluvium is one of our types of alopecia or hair loss. What happens is that you have inflammation of the hair follicle, and the hair shaft will shift from the anagen phase, which is the growth phase, to the telogen phase or catagen phase, where it's in a resting or shedding state. So telogen effluvium usually happens about 3 months after some type of insult to the body, whether it's pregnancy and parturition when you have a baby, or say you get a sickness, or you get COVID, or you have a stressful moment in your life, you lose a job, lose a loved one, and then telogen effluvium happens 3 months later. So as far as topicals for it, I would say probably injection of PRP. So PRP is platelet-rich plasma. It doesn't really have much data supporting its anti-aging effects, but as far as hair restoration, it can be very helpful. So basically what they do is, if you go to a provider who has it in their office, they take a blood sample from your skin, they spin it down in a centrifuge, and they take your plasma, they put it into a syringe, and they inject it into your scalp. That actually has a lot of data supporting it with telogen effluvium, so you may want to try that. It's basically your body's own platelet-derived growth factors that is going to stimulate the hair follicle to go from the telogen phase, which is the resting shedding phase, to the anagen phase. So that's what I would recommend. Supplements are also really important, and just as crazy as this sounds, but just healthy lifestyle, and just kind of like meditating, exercising, eating clean, getting a lot of sleep, doing whatever you need to do to center yourself actually has a really profound impact on the hair follicles and in alopecia and most of the reversible alopecia. So I hope this helps, but if you wanted to kind of take a bigger jump with a more aggressive treatment, I don't know if you'd want to go that aggressive, but a PRP injections into the scalp should help a lot. But as far as topicals, you could use some growth factors, but that might get a little bit messy and expensive. I would say just go, with the more, tried and true PRP injections, or just, trying to do things in your daily lifestyle habits that are kind of decrease stress and increase energy, and just kind of center yourself, because a lot of, the skin and the hair growth has a lot to do with what's going on inside of our body, cortisol levels, stress hormone levels, and that is greatly affected by our emotional stability, the amount of sleep we're getting, how much stress we have in our life. And that's important for me to remember too. I have 2 small kids, and I have a medical practice where I'm seeing patients every day and trying to juggle with being a mom. I work 8 to 2, so I get my kids to school, I go to my practice, I see patients, nonstop, don't take a break, just work for 6 to 7 straight hours, pick them up from school, take them surfing, to their activities, to their tap, jazz, ballet, football, and I want to be there for them as a mom, but it's very taxing on me too, and just trying to have like self-care and take care of myself so that my skin stays healthy and my hair stays healthy. It's really important. But hopefully that answers your question, but I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. So okay, what do you use on your lips to keep them hydrated? I believe toothpaste or face wash I have been using is causing the corners of my lips to crack and be flaky. So if it's the corners of your lips, this is actually called angular cheilitis. And I would just put a little bit of like Vaseline or Aquaphor on the corners of your mouth as you sleep. Sometimes there's a yeast form called Pityrosporum ovale, and it likes to, kind of proliferate in wet areas, and as you sleep, sometimes the corner of your mouth, that's where the saliva is, and it can, stimulate growth of this yeast form, which can crack the corners of the mouth. So I would just put Aquaphor Vaseline on the corners of the mouth, and then I really just like using just Aquaphor or Vaseline. There's a lot of lip masks out there. There's one called Lip Drink. There's HA5 by Skin Medica lip plumping system. I guess it's a lip plumping system, but it basically adds hydration into the lips as well. But you don't have to spend a lot of money. If you wanted to go medical grade, I would go with those two. But if you wanted to just keep it simple and save your money and have something that's good, I would use Vaseline or Aquaphor. And just the most important part is to put it on at nighttime, because that way you're not eating or sleep or wiping it off or talking, and it just has the longest time that it's in contact with your lip skin to kind of hydrate and reinforce that barrier. So I hope that helps. Let me just keep moving on. Okay, and then somebody just said shea butter for mouth. So shea butter, coconut oil, all those are great too. What is your best advice for marionette lines or jowls? Okay, so marionette lines are these guys that start to form right here. Usually we use filler, or we use tightening devices to help tighten and lift up the skin from up here. There's lots of different things that we can do to help smooth out the marionette lines. So you could use dermal fillers, tightening devices, even doing filler along the jawline, because as we reach, over the age of 50, you get bone resorption. So your mandible or your bone actually disintegrates over time, so you don't have that structural support that's holding that skin back. And so the skin starts to fall, which is very disconcerting. So adding a little bit of filler along the angle of the jawbone back here actually can help lift up and pull up on the marionette line. So usually it's multiple, there's multiple ways you could treat it. It just depends on what you're looking for, what vibes best with what type of treatment you want to do. Do you want to do an energy-based device that's going to tighten the skin on top and induce your body's own regenerative processes to stimulate collagen and elastin and to pull that skin nice and tight? Or do you want to do a correctional filler where you do a little filler along the jawline to pull it back? Or you can actually inject filler right into the marionette lines, or you could do thread lifts. There's different things that you can do, and different people vibe with different procedures or different treatment options. So sometimes it's a mix of doing all different ones, and I always do one treatment, and I'm very conservative because I feel like successive approximations to your goal always gives the most natural and beautiful outcome. So I do one treatment, see how you respond, add in another treatment if we need to, and so forth. So that's just my approach to it. Okay, what would you say the best treatment for rosacea is? I've been using Rofade for a while now, but I feel like it's not working. So Rofade is Rosatrol and Rofade are two medical grade skincare products that are engineered to help treat rosacea. So for those of you who don't know, the pathomechanism of rosacea is you have very vasoactive blood vessels. The activity of the blood vessels is very sensitive. So with things like spicy foods, UV light, hot beverages, alcohol, different things can vasodilate your skin and make your skin very, very sensitive. There's a whole continuum of rosacea too. There could be papular rosacea, there could be rhinophyma, there could be inflammatory rosacea, nodular rosacea. There's a whole continuum, and rosacea is actually on the same spectrum as acne. There could be periorificial dermatitis. Rosacea is a very highly complex dermatologic condition, and there's different flavors of it. So people often get confused, and when I'm talking to patients about it, I have to not overwhelm them because it's a lot for them to understand. So to keep it simple, it's a problem with vasoactivity of the blood vessels. Your blood vessels dilate and put way too much blood flow to the skin, which can have presentations like acne or papules or whiteheads or just broken capillaries or just facial flushing. So the way you treat it is you need to decrease the activity of the blood vessels. It is true that there's an ongoing process inside the body too that could be exacerbating these things. So first and foremost, overall health has an effect on your skin and your hair, just as we just talked about. So just normalizing that, eating healthy, taking supplements that you need, balancing yourself, decreasing your stress is going to help internally control, rosacea with respect to gut health and things like that. But to be honest, the skin is an outward representation of what's going on inside. But even when you're doing all these things and you optimize your internal health, rosacea could still be a phenomenon. So how do you treat it? I'm not a big fan of treating it, from the outside in with topical medications, prescription medications, low-grade antibiotics over time, because I feel like that's just a quick Band-Aid to put on it. You have to fix what's going on inside the skin that's contributing to the rosacea. Now, that may be a treatment that lasts for 2 or 3 years, and because your genetic blueprint's going to make it happen again, you have to kind of keep it at bay and maintenance over every couple years. But honestly, V-beam lasers, which ablate and control the blood vessels, which are contributing to the problem of what rosacea is basically curing it, not curing it, but controlling it in a manner to where you're not just putting a Band-Aid on all the inflammation and all the vasodilation that's happening. You're not giving an antibiotic or a topical medication or even a topical skin, medical grade skincare on top of it, you're basically fixing the skin on a cellular histologic level with lasers to help shrink down the blood vessels that are contributing it, so it stays dormant. But then, your genetic blueprint, we always say in laser medicine, we can control and treat the skin, but we can't change the genes. Your body may make those vasoactive blood vessels again a couple years later, and then you have to do another laser treatment to keep it at bay. But long term, V-beam laser is one of the best things, and pretty much, I don't want to say it's a cure, but it's the best way to control rosacea from the inside, in addition to optimizing your internal health, your gut health, using supplements, things like that, controlling stressors in your life. Unfortunately, avoiding your triggers, which are all the fun things, spicy foods, alcohol, UV light, hot yoga, things like that. You want to be able to control it. But I think that V-beam laser, or any laser that targets blood vessels, a KTP, a 532, a 595, even IPL is not really a laser, but it's a okay treatment for it too. XLV, these are lasers that will help treat the skin, treat the melasma from the inside, inside histologically cellular level of the skin, and then that just manifests with beautiful skin. You don't have to cover the redness up with makeup. You don't have to worry about being flushed in your photos with your friends. You don't have to Facetune your redness out of your face. So it's actually very liberating when your skin looks beautiful, and it just makes you feel better. So I'm a big proponent of treating rosacea with V-beam or with lasers that can target the problem and treat the problem, not just put a Band-Aid on it. So okay, let's see. What can be done to reduce severe TEWL, which stands for transepidermal water loss from the scalp? Night sweating causing massive hair breakage. I can't apply, where did I go? Let me see. I just lost the comment. Okay, I can't apply occlusive to scalp due to greasy appearance. Thank you for all the tips. So minimizing transepidermal water loss or night sweating. So sweating is different than transepidermal water loss. Sweat comes from the eccrine glands, and it's basically a secretion that comes from glands, which is different than transepidermal water loss, is when water is sucked out of the skin to dry the scalp. So again, I don't want to give too much medical information over YouTube because medically, legally, I have some restrictions, but transepidermal water loss in the scalp is actually very rare. If you're dry in the scalp, sometimes it's due to overactive sebaceous glands and too much grease or oily production of sebum in the scalp, which basically cause a kind of dry, flaky phenomenon because your immune system comes and kind of like gets irritated and activated from the dry, flaky sebum on the scalp that can increase the proliferation of, I hate to say, the Pityrosporum ovale and Demodex and a lot of organisms that live on the surface of the skin that feed off the sebum or the oils. And then your immune system comes and kind of reacts to it, and then you get red, dry, flaky on the scalp. So usually, like a ketoconazole shampoo, which is an antifungal shampoo. I mentioned this before, but like Selsun Blue, Head and Shoulders, I know it's gross and they don't smell great, but washing your hair with that, lathering it up in your scalp and letting it sit for about 2 to 3 minutes before washing it off, and doing it like 2 to 3 times a week is in the medical derm clinics. This is what we usually use to treat dry, flaky, itchy scalp. So it really doesn't have a lot to do with transepidermal water loss. That's actually very rare in the scalp. However, if it truly is transepidermal water loss, I would just say, get like a some type of like oil or very like you won't want to use like Aquaphor or like Vaseline, but get some type of like coconut oil or some oil that you can pour on your scalp. But that's actually probably the last thing you need, because I don't really truly feel that you're having transepidermal water loss in the scalp. It's usually from an overproduction of sebum or overproduction of yeast forms on the skin, which everybody has. We do skin biopsies and see it all the time, and just kind of minimizing that proliferation by using like a good ketoconazole or Head and Shoulders or Selsun Blue shampoo. So I know that all my dermatology colleagues would agree with me, but that may sound kind of off the wall to you, but you should just try it and see, and that should help. So, and if not, I would go ahead and follow up with your dermatologist so that they could take a closer look and even maybe do a biopsy if they have to look under the microscope and see what's going on. Because you can have like sebopsoriasis or psoriasis too, and in that case, usually we have to give something called like a Lytic scalp solution or something prescription strength. But I don't like to give prescriptions unless I have to, and so it's always better to find the root of the cause and just actually target it with targeted therapy, whatever that may be, depending on what the real reason is. Okay, let me see what else is going on here. Okay, I've been seeing so many dermatologist videos using Morpheus 8, but I don't know anyone who has done it. So that's the key thing. Morpheus 8, for those of you who don't know, is a microneedling radiofrequency device. I actually don't have one. I'm more of a laser girl. I feel like lasers are tried and true. They give the most consistent outcomes. They have the most happiest, consistent patients. The results last longer than, just a couple weeks once that inflammation goes away. Morpheus 8, I actually, it's so hard for me to talk about it because I don't want to say anything negative about it. Some colleagues have it and they like it. Just know that there's a lot of marketing that goes in behind the scenes, and sometimes companies do things like this. They'll say, hey, we'll give you this free device, but we want you to give us 100 5-star reviews from your patients. And so, there's a lot of unethical things that are going on out there, and I'm a proponent of having a device that works well, that gives consistent outcomes, that gives happy patients, and that's what I usually promote or recommend. I'm not saying that Morpheus 8 doesn't work. I just don't really recommend it because I've seen patients who've had it done at other offices, and then they come to see me and they're in tears and they're crying because they spent a lot of money and it didn't work, and they looked good for about 2 weeks while they had inflammation, but then once that went away, they're back to where they started from, but they lost a lot of money and had to go through the downtime. So it's hard for me to your product of your experiences, right? I haven't had positive feedback from my patients who have had Morpheus 8, so I'm not saying it doesn't work or it's not good. I just can't recommend it because I have lasers in my office. Lasers definitely give the best results long term, and if you have a patient come in 6 months later, a year later, they still have those amazing outcomes that they were promised. So I think that that's great. Also, I'm not saying this happened with Morpheus 8, but there have been devices that say, have this device in your office, and we'll pay you to use this, and we'll pay you to promote this, and they have a lot of money. These companies have a lot of money, and they throw a lot of money at providers. And I am, my fellowship director who taught me, who's a world-renowned laser expert, says I can never be bought or sold by a company. I never want to fall for that. Because I want the freedom to recommend what I know works and what my heart is behind and what my passion's behind and which I know is tried and true. I don't want to be locked into having a laser because I get hooked up from the laser company, and then I propagate this misinformation and these, fake reviews that are going to deter people or dissuade them to spend their hard-earned money on something that may not be truly, honestly, the best treatment. So I always try to hold a high ethical, moral compass, and I've been trained that way, and that's just who I am. So just know when a lot of people are posting, take a minute to see how do they, when they're before and after, does it show? Was this 2 weeks later? Does they show that it was 6 months later or a year? Because that's the real truth, and outcomes speak for themselves. Marketing means nothing to me. I'm never sold or captivated by marketing, especially when laser companies or device companies come into my office. And I even had a laser and device company come in and say, why don't you have this device in your office? Everyone has it. And I'm like, because it doesn't work. And the laser company rep that came in, she's like, so? And I'm like, okay, get out of my office. And for those of you who know me, I'm a nice, sweet person. I like to keep the peace. I'm non-confrontational, but there's a lot of that out there. And these companies are aggressive, and they usually get a hold of people who may not know that much about lasers, or, plastic surgeons don't have the laser physics lectures and board questions on lasers. They're in the OR. Those guys spend 6 to 8 years in the OR. They're not playing with lasers like dermatologists are. So usually, devices or lasers that you see in a plastic surgeon's office, it's sad because some of the plastic surgeons can get taken for a ride by these companies because they don't really understand how lasers or physics of these lasers work. So then they buy this device, and then they have to do these packages and these deals and all this marketing and all this flashy social media marketing for it. So it's just hard because I tried to put blinders on and not get persuaded with false advertising or empty promises or marketing, but it inadvertently happens. So I'm not saying that if I don't post it, it's not good. It's just I have, like I said, you're a product of your experiences, and I only post and recommend and have procedures in my office that I know work and that have proven the test of time, when done correctly, have amazing outcomes. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so let me just go back to some of your other questions. Okay. Oh, let me see. Oh, Trio is heavy. I like Sente. It sinks in the skin better. Okay, perfect. So that's good to know. So Trio is a hydrator. It's by Skin Better Science, and somebody had said that they like Sente better. So it's always good to try different things and just use what works for you. Sometimes people will say that one product is too heavy. Some people say it's too light. Everybody's looking for something different, and there's so many options out there these days that it's, you don't have to choose one or the other. Just find what works best for you, and that's the one that you should stick with. So I think that that's good. Okay, somebody asked best treatment for ice pick acne scars on the cheeks. So for those of you who don't know, ice pick acne scars are like kind of like the pitted scarring that you can get, from acne on the cheeks, usually like in this area, and on the temples is the most common area that you find it. Usually laser resurfacing, I feel, is the best treatment for that. You can combine it with peels, with subcision, with other treatments too. I'm not a big microneedling fan, but some people like to combine lasers and microneedling together. But I think that laser resurfacing is the most tried and true, most impressive outcome for ice pick scarring. Now, the problem with ice pick scarring is that if you look on cross section under the microscope, an ice pick scar goes really deep down into the skin. Usually, if here's the epidermis, the uppermost layer of the skin, and say the ice pick scar goes down to here, the laser beam photons sometimes only come to here, so it can't get to the bottom part of that scar. So sometimes what we do is it's a cross method, CROSS, and we take like a really high percentage of a chemical peel and we put it on like at the end of either like a cotton tipped applicator or something that's going to get down into the pit of the scar, and we put the peel of the pit of the scar to bring the pit of the scar up, and then we can laser on top of it. So sometimes lasers aren't deep enough to get really deep ice pick scars, and in those cases you either have to do a peel to bring the base of it up so that the laser can hit it, or you have to subcise it from underneath, because sometimes the bottom of the ice pit scar is tethered down by fibroconnective tissue bands, and taking a little scalpel and kind of releasing it will bring the base of it up higher and will allow things like chemical peels, combined laser resurfacing, or microneedling to have a better effect. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, it's been over an hour, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up, but it's been so fun talking to you guys. I'm going to take one more question. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you guys like it, just leave me a comment, we can do this every Sunday if you want, and then also write in the comment sections what you guys want to hear about, because I can talk about, you can see, I can talk about anything, and I can talk about it for all day long. So whatever you guys want to hear. And I'm here to answer questions and hopefully stop the propagation of misinformation or provide honest and true answers for you. Again, I'm not in contract with any companies. I never have been, and trust me, these companies are willing to throw a lot financially and incentivize doctors to promote or recommend their device, their treatment, their skincare line. I mean, you should see in my office how many skincare companies like just douse me every day with samples of their products and incentivize me to post them or whatever. And I don't, because I want to, like I said, I want to have the freedom and the flexibility to just recommend what works, and that may change. It changes with the time. It's a rapidly advancing field, and I don't want to be stuck, recommending something that my heart and passion is not behind. So I'll only provide truth and honesty for you guys. And even when it comes to my skincare line, I mean, of course, I engineered it to where I think it's the best and most innovative. But if it may not be for my, one person or another, or my patients, or any of you guys, and that's okay. You find what works best for you and you go with it, because the journey to clear healthy skin, I'm in my 40s now, and I've been doing this my entire life, and the journey to clear healthy skin is not falling for marketing or fancy packaging or empty false promises. You have to find what works for you, and if it's a good product and you use it and your skin looks better, that's all you need to know. And I do feel my products work for themselves. I'm not going to make a big old deal about marketing it or talking about it. Try it, get it, use it for 2 or 3 weeks, and you will see, and you'll have your aha moment, like, okay, this is what good skincare is supposed to do and what it's supposed to look like, and this is how it's supposed to feel. So I think that once you experience a product, whether it's my line or Skin Better or Zio, or somebody mentioned Sanita's or Skin Medica, just use what works for you. And it may be different products from different lines. Like, for example, I do like Skin Better Science and I do like Zio, but there's some products of theirs, and Elastin, there's some products in their line that I don't like and have an aversion to, or I don't recommend, because I've seen patients not have great outcomes from it. So I don't say anything negative about those products, I just don't talk about them. So, it's always important to use what's right for you. Your skin will tell you when you're using a good treatment, or you have a good derm office or plastic surgeon's office treatment and your skin looks good. That's all you need to know. And then that results and outcomes speak for themselves, and that's what drives me, and that's what I try to post and recommend online, on social media, on my YouTube, and for Instagram as well. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, be sure you follow me there, because I post like 20 stories a day. I take my phone with me in my white coat pocket, and as I'm doing treatments, I'm in real time posting stories and try to educate you guys too. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. I love you guys, and somebody just said thank you for practicing evidence-based medicine and educating us. Yeah, absolutely. I practice only evidence-based. I'm outcomes-based, results-based, and honestly, that's served me well so far in my career. And that's what I recommend for my patients and my beauties who are like my family members to me. So I only wish you guys the best. Hopefully, you found this educational Q&A helpful. Share it with anybody else who may find it useful, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that every time I post, you can have a notification that I have a new video up. After filming this Q&A right now, probably gonna go downstairs. I'm in my bedroom right now. I had to escape my kiddos who are like screaming and running around. Hopefully you guys didn't hear them. But I'm gonna post a video on, I think, like lower face laxity and rejuvenation of like the lower face, because I think a lot of people have been asking me about that lately, not only in the clinic but in DMs and comments as well. So I'm here for you. I'll post an educational video once a week for you. I'm super passionate about this. I love being in your family with you guys because I know that you guys are as passionate about skincare as I am. So it's great to share information and to have this fun exchange platform where we could ask each other questions and talk back and forth to each other, and I could see what you guys are interested in hearing about. So hopefully this helps. Love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.